It's 6 o'clock, and so I'm going to call this City Council Workshop meeting to order. And we're grateful that we've got as many of you here tonight. I think we've got a great presentation. We've asked Jared Lewis and Ron Gailey to come and kind of share with us the findings of the steering committee, which we've got many members here tonight. Thank you for coming. So we will turn the time over to them. I let you guys decide who's doing what and who's first, but we appreciate very much the efforts of the steering committee. They've been working on this literally for months, and I think they've come to a pretty conclusion, and not conclusion, but at least we're ready to make a good recommendation, that's my word. Make a good recommendation to the city council for them to further go and make a decision on which way to go here. But Ron Gailey is the one that worked on the survey, built the survey for us, and he's going to come and kind of explain to us the results of that survey. And then Jared will take some time and present the findings of the steering committee.
If it's okay with you, Mayor, I'll go first.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys decide how you want to do it.
Well, gentlemen, it's good to be back in front of you guys again. It's been a couple of months since we last reported on the progress of the Main Street Steering Committee. I just want to take a couple of minutes to review what that is and what we've been asked to do. And then we're going to report on the research that we've done and make a recommendation for your approval. We would love to approve this concept tonight, if at all possible. So we're going to go ahead and move forward here. If we could go to the next slide. All right. Our efforts. We organized in May 2024. We were, well, actually, you know what? First, could I have a show of hands of all those on the Main Street Steering Committee? Yep. And then I also want to acknowledge that we've got members of the board of the Chamber of Commerce, Box Elder County Chamber of Commerce here as well, supporting, since this is a business endeavor. So our efforts summarized, we organized in May of 2024. This is the latest of different iterations of this committee. To my knowledge, from what I've been told, we've attempted to organize such a committee in 1988, early 2000s, 2013, 2020, and earlier this year, all of which have just kind of fallen apart. For one reason or another, research has been done as to how to revitalize Main Street and bring in more business. It's never brought any real concrete results yet. So that being said, in the early meetings, we tried to really drill down and decide what are our core concerns that we're trying to address with Main Street revitalization, right? What does that mean? In the automotive industry where I come from, our process for diagnosing a vehicle is the 4 C's: concern, cause, correction, and confirmation. And so following that template, we had the first couple of meetings just talking about what we felt like were our core concerns, what caused those concerns, what corrections we should go ahead and recommend, and how we would confirm if those corrections actually worked. Okay. Out of that, we distilled it down to a mission statement and a vision statement. The mission of the Main Street Steering Committee is to assess the current Main Street environment by observation, public input, and discussion, and then make recommendations to the Tremonton City Council to create a functional and inviting Main Street environment. We envision an inviting, vibrant, and functional Main Street with amenities that will embolden active citizenship, invite and grow strong, healthy business enterprises, and preserve our strong heritage. When it comes down to it, we determined that our problems were lack of economic activity, lack of strong, healthy business enterprises, and a lack of identity that ties us back to our heritage. So yeah, those were our concerns. One of the causes, now this is not the only cause, but the cause that's within the scope of what we're able to do is that the Main Street layout and amenities don't make sense for entrepreneurs, citizens, or public works, from a public works standpoint. We have outdated amenities, outdated sidewalks and street lighting, outdated trees that are pushing up concrete and causing damage, that cover up buildings that are not conducive to a thriving business, right? They don't attract business owners to Main Street, and it just lacks sort of the beauty and attractiveness that's needed to encourage retail business specifically. Okay, so last time I presented, we talked about some of the corrections. We talked about removing and replacing trees. We talked about wayfinding signage, by which we would be able to direct people that either weren't familiar with or new to Tremonton, or those of us that have been here for a while. Parking was a big concern among a lot of people. Studies found that parking can be found, but wayfinding signage has to be there. A Main Street redesign, sidewalk enhancement, street and building lighting, a road diet to widen out our sidewalks, and greenery. We also determined that storefront upgrades or facade grants, which is sort of the more commonly used term now for that, is would be another correction. And then consistent public art themes. So the way that business looks from one end of Main Street to the other just has no real consistency, and that's something we can fix. Okay, so what we did is come up with those corrections, and we didn't want to just bring them to you guys for your consideration. We know that the public wants to be involved, and so Tremonton City did go ahead and hire Ron Gailey to put together a survey that distilled all of these ideas into sort of a format where citizens could take a survey, give feedback, see what we're talking about, and it actually brought up some really interesting results that Ron would like to share with you.
While that's coming up, let me introduce myself. So I'm Ron Gailey, and I have my own company, On Point Insights, and we do research for citizens. My background is I was the research director for Zions Bank for many years, and I went to another bank up in Seattle. I was their research director for a number of years, and I went to Coca-Cola, and I was the research director responsible for all of Asia, so 14 countries there, China and Japan, and I was helping executives make their annual strategic plans. And I just learned a thing or two about what executives need and how to get feedback that is usable. Anyway, I started my own company not long ago and fell in love with helping cities and towns. So over the past 3 years, I've helped probably 50 cities now with research studies, and it's been very fulfilling for me. And I just got the pleasure of being introduced to Lyle. We did something early with Lyle, and anyway, I'm going to share with you what we were able to pull off. Now, the study that we did do, we wanted to make sure this is a different kind of a research study than many of them are. This is an education survey where we needed to get people on the same page. We needed to have them educated about various things so that their response could be informed and not just made up. And is that coming up? Anyway, so it would be informed rather than just their own hunches or their own feelings. One of the first things we made clear to them as we introduced the survey was that the mayor and the city council had been very careful and judicious with money, seeking grants and raising funds and saving money, so that all the ideas here were not really asking for a tax increase, but we just really wanted an opinion. I think that was vital so that they could be very independent in their thinking about how nice this would be without fearing there was going to be a big challenge to their pocketbooks. So that was an important thing, and
If it doesn't come up there, out in the email that I sent to you, there should be the link.
there we go. It's coming up. After we did the survey, we put it into a dashboard. This is the dashboard. It's very easy to navigate through the dashboard. On the left-hand side, first thing, area of respondents. Most people were from Tremont and Garland, but we did allow people from Deweyville, Elwood, and Thatcher and outlying areas. We'd like to tell you that they were nearly identically positive on their responses, whether they were in Tremont or the outlying areas. Let's go to demographics. The next thing on demographics are we had a really nice mix of people. A lot of younger people, quite a few older people, a few more females than males, but that's normal. Women are just a little more responsive to these things. Most of them do have children in the household, but there are those who don't. We did get 646 responses. That's what Jared mentioned. So we had a really good response rate. I'm guessing that's 20% of your adult population or something here. I'm not sure, maybe more. Let's go to the resident details. A couple of more things about them. A lot of people are newer to the city, 1 to 4 years or less than a year. We have over 25% there, but there's also quite a few old timers. So you have a nice mix of old and new, and that's really healthy for you. And then we do have renters, 22% are renters, 78% do own their homes. And we do have business owners, and we can even tell the responses of business owners who own a business on Main Street or not. So when you have the results, we won't take the time to do that here, but you can look to see what do these Main Street businesses think and what do others think. And they're of course extremely supportive, but you can look at this by other business types. Now, I would like to skip down to the Main Street support. What we did was we said, what are your initial feelings of support for renovating and improving Main Street? And you can see the support is very high. So very supportive, 39%. Supportive, 33%. There are a few, 7%, who say, I just don't support this, right? But it's very high support level. And I've done a lot of surveys across a lot of cities. This is very high. We then wanted to understand there's an opportunity to change Main Street into the Borgstrom Memorial Highway. I'm sure you're very familiar with that. Let's go to the next page. We wanted to find out their level of support for that. They were pretty supportive for this. I will say that it didn't turn out to be the highest rated thing among residents, but they liked it. There were some concerns. Can it be about more than the Borgstroms? Right? Can it be kind of supporting veterans overall? There's a lot of people who have done this. But there are also some people who said, I don't know, maybe this isn't going to do much for us. So there are the doubters, right? And so if you do pursue this, you'd have to think about that. How do we deal with that? But it was pretty positive. Education first, their responses. Next, Main Street sidewalks. We'll go to that. Are you supportive of replacing and improving the sidewalks? Well, support is super high. And as we see later on, this is a very high and very important thing for people, supportive of replacing the sidewalks. But we do talk about Well, if we did that, we'd have to remove the trees, we'd put in new culinary water lines, we'd put in better power lines, we would do a lot, like it'd be tearing things up quite a lot. They were still very supportive. So this was a good thing. Trees. I do understand that you had some kickback because of the idea of removing trees. And so in this case, we just explained, look, if we're going to replace and redo Main Street, the trees have to go. But we'd like to find out what you'd like us to replace them with. Would it be replacing the trees with better varieties? Would it be beautifying the streets with maybe planters, other things? Or would it be just making our buildings look nice and having the buildings take the role of beautification? And as you can see, there's support for each, but the trees with better varieties that work, it was the one that they preferred by a significant margin. Continuing on to lights on Main Street. They love this idea. New lights that decorate and beautify the city. We have examples here of hanging signs and planters. They were very supportive of lights. Wayfinding signs. Wayfinding signs turned out to be a little bit lower, but pretty high still. They liked the idea of having signs that allowed people to get around and find parking. We have like an example of parking and so forth. And they were supportive of that in general. And it's almost the same, you would think, wow, they're supportive of everything. And that's kind of true. We'll get down, we'll show that we asked them to prioritize, and that'll come up. But right now, they're very supportive of this. How about planters on Main Street? Again, very positive. We show them examples of planters and how supportive were they have more greenery, very supportive. That's very, very good. And then storefronts on Main Street. What this was is you take the buildings that are here and you get loans or grants or whatever and work with the people along Main Street to beautify Main Street by beautifying their buildings. And there was a lot of support for that. We have before and after pictures that we didn't get from here in Fremont, and they were from around, but they were very supportive of the idea of beautifying the buildings. Now, having gone through all of those, now we have educated them on a variety of things. We just wanted to help get their priorities. That's the next one. Oh, sorry, dining on Main Street is the next one. We asked them about dining, where we could have dining on Main Street or on alleyways or behind, various ways that you could create an atmosphere for getting together and dining. And they were extremely supportive of that. So then having done that, we got to the main priority. Let's click on that one. So the thing they love the most, because it directly, I think, impacts them the most, is the dining options. That was really, really high. New sidewalks was really high. I was surprised that helping retailers beautify their storefronts with loans and grants was third, but that's a very strong number and a very positive thing. I know right now you maybe haven't dialed in exactly how that will take place. And so you now have something that they would like and they would support by and large, because we asked everybody to pick their top 2 out of these. That's how we're able to kind of pull them apart. All of them are important, but they picked their top 2. Down at the bottom were the wayfinding signs, and then having the buildings take the role of beautifying the street and shade. So those are pretty low. And the Borgstrom Brothers Memorial Highway did not come as high as a lot of the other areas. I do want to point out, too, that we did have some people all along the way who said none of these are a good idea. I don't like this, right? And we had some here because we gave them the opportunity to say none. But you don't have very many. There's only 4% who said, I don't think any of these things should be one of our priorities. And so I think you'll hear those people, and they do represent a group, because 4% of 646 is going to be a fair number of people. But the majority, they feel much different, the broad majority. Now I'm going to pause right here and see if you have any questions, and then I'll kind of wrap some things up.
I think I've seen this survey, but we can get to it somehow, right, Mayor?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
got that.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing I'd like to share is a little bit about Midland Square. So we talked with them that Midland Square plans were underway, but we didn't really have them evaluate Midland Square, the plans, because I know you've already done that in the past and it's been going on for a while. But we did say, in addition to Midland Square, what other suggestions do you have? And so that's other Main Street suggestions here. Would you click on that one? So it's kind of what you already heard, but more restaurant variety was something that people wanted. But they also wanted entertainment options. And I looked at those things. People suggested things like, oh, let's have a movie theater. Oh, let's have things that are family friendly. Oh, let's have, they had a variety of entertainment ideas that people kind of wanted. More retailer variety. They said, well, we have the retailers here, but I don't know that the retailers that I would necessarily go to, we'd love to have more retailers here that are maybe more applicable to me. And so that, and that included, well, they even said a Walmart and a grocery store and they had various things, but in addition to that, other retailers that they would like. There's fair amount of support for a children's museum. The other add your own, I just checked those, and the other add your owns were reinforcements of the things that are already here. And they kind of described what they were thinking for one of these options. And some of them say don't do anything. So there was that, right? But there were these things. And so there you go. Very positive. And I just think, number one, I think this gives your committee prioritization that's invaluable. Number one, I know you can't do this all at once, so you can sequence and kind of go through certain things. It gives you that ability. It also gives you the ability, when you do hear people say they don't support this, to know that that's true. Some people don't support it, but there's a lot who do. And it gives you cover in a way to hold the course if you do hear otherwise from people, because there are people who don't agree, but there are a lot who do. And so I'll just stop at that point and can answer questions if you have more.
Ron has done, and if you see over on the right-hand side, you've got the filters where you can look at the different demographics, and it's kind of interesting to see how, say, the younger population feels about dining versus maybe some of the older folks, and that kind of thing. And so that was, I thought that was
Just on any page, you can say, oh, what about the people who haven't been here very long? What about, or what about the businesses on Main Street? Or really, what about the people outside of Tremont and proper, they're out in the outlying areas? What do they think on any page? It's just really easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is great. Thank you.
And then the other thing I want to say is we have done, I don't know what your plans are for business. I know it's really hard to attract restaurants. So I was working with a city in Texas, and if you'd like to do something along this line, we could do it. But they wanted to find out, they had their residents always saying we want more restaurants. And they say, we have restaurants? Like, what's wrong here? And so they had in mind what maybe people could want, but we did a survey that found out what restaurants people go to out of the city and in the city. Right? And then what they'd like to see in the future in the city. And it was really eye-opening for them. And it wasn't what they thought. Like, they all had their ideas. And there, of course, there are a lot of people who want various things. But it was really helpful. And now they have a group who's approaching the restaurant types that the residents said, we would like this. And they're saying, we have, like our citizens would like what you have here. And it was very useful to them. And so that's something you could consider. We could do something along that line, done right for Tremont. And so.
That'd be really valuable to get.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like a business development support survey, right? And it can be very useful.
Because we all go out there and we want specific things to come in, and I'm sure all of us have approached these businesses saying, you ought to come to Tremont, but if you had some numbers behind it.
Yeah, it said you're the top three of what people
Look how many
want
people
or
in
whatever.
Tremont would like to see you come. That would really help.
Exactly,
Very good.
yeah.
As long as we don't get a Red Robin.
Everybody has their opinions.
Ron has been absolutely, could we actually pull that up one more time real quick? So sorry. Ron has been absolutely awesome to work with. I think it's a real privilege to work with someone that has had that experience and can put together this input for us. It's truly given us sort of, I don't want to say the ammunition because that sounds sort of kind of counterintuitive, but it does. It gives us the answers we've been needing as far as, what cross-section of Tremonton wants something done versus not, and how much should we give weight to people that say that we shouldn't do anything, right? The majority of people want something done. So if we could go down to the change in Main Street support, right there. You'll see the initial level of support, so that's one of the first graphs that you saw, and then the final level of support. This is the question that said, overall, how supportive are you of change on Main Street? Very general question. You'll see that support moved up a couple of categories pretty significantly, and also worthy of note is that the dissenters, those that were opposed to development or to change, stayed about the same. So that does kind of give you a clue. Okay, all right. Let's go back to the slide real quick.
I think we need to go back one.
What's that?
We need to
Let's go back one. And it,
Is page up?
hey. Okay, so the survey results were taken and a concept design drawn. I screwed up Sam's name. It's Sam Taylor, not Sam Harris. This preferred concept was approved by the Main Street Steering Committee as having met the criteria of our vision statement and all the research done. So Jeff is going to kind of explain that concept. And since I'm not a civil engineer, it would be good to kind of have him talk over the finer points of that. And then we'll kind of go to questions and things and wrap up after that point.
Did you put the preferred concept in the slide deck?
Yes. So, well, it's not in the slide deck. It's another link.
Oh,
There it
okay,
is.
perfect. So our preferred concept, to back up a little bit, is we presented 3 different concepts to the steering committee. And through that, we kind of handpicked the features we liked from each of them, and ended up with this preferred concept. The highlights of this, to me, is being able to. Do you mind scrolling down, Cynthia, to the next page? We've got those 2 cross sections right there, and I'm going to stand up to point. Got the magic wand. One key. That's the other end. One key that we have here with this cross section is that these travel lanes are about the same size they are now. We measured them out to, I think, be about 12 feet, and we'd go down to 11, which is UDOT's minimum width. But what it does is it allows for us to use the current parking as a flex space. And so, if you mind scrolling back up, is we've seen, there was a town in Washington that Sam showed us that has these bollards here that you can move either to be at the edge of the sidewalk or at the edge of the travel lane. And that allows for business owners to either provide parking up front or dining options, as you can kind of see right through here. So like this would be what it'd look like if you had tables. This would be what it'd look like if you could have the parking up front. This way we utilize the existing space better, and it also opens up the sidewalk to allow for more pedestrian or bike or active transportation needs. The other key factor in all of this is that we've designed the road so that the curb and gutter is a straight shot, which is going to help with coordinating who is in charge of what space. And talking with UDOT, the curb kind of acts as a fence line between what's UDOT's to maintain and what the city's is to maintain. And so by having that be a straight line, it increases just good clarity and transparency for Public Works and for UDOT in sharing that space.
What's a straight shot mean, Jeff?
It just straight down the road. It doesn't jog around the parking or anything. It just
What it is
goes.
right now.
So
It
there's,
does what it's right, does what it does right.
there's no curb and gutter?
There is curb and gutter. It just ends up being right. It just ends up going, if you don't mind scrolling a little. It just ends up staying right there.
Oh, I'm
And so
following.
it goes down the road without having any kind of jogging, which is the most obviously cost-effective way to put in curb and gutter. With this being said, what it does is it actually allows the sidewalks to be fully used because the greenery then goes into raised planters that break up the parking and the seating areas. So we would plan on putting those raised landscape islands in spots where parking and pedestrian use doesn't make sense because of intersections or traffic, or general accessibility where, maybe a car shouldn't be parking there, but it's really trying to fit in between two driveway approaches. So by moving the greenery and the flex space out into kind of the shoulder of the road, it's gonna really open up how well people can walk along Main Street.
Kind of like what that the top right image right there, if you look how like wide that sidewalk is, really kind of shows what that could look like instead of sort of the crowded.
So does that leave our sidewalks the same width, or do they get bigger or smaller?
They're about the same width. So right now it varies a little bit. We're generally about 10.5 to 11 feet, and this would make them 12 feet. So not a huge difference, not a huge increase, but the thing is that the trees go out of the trees go away from the sidewalk. And so you open up this space where you could even go put out trash cans and bike racks along the sidewalk and still have a lot of room to work on. With the raised planters too, we were planning on, or hoping to put seating, so attached to the planter, so if people just wanted to sit on Main Street, those would act as extra pedestrian seating.
I got one question. What's that do for a state snowplow?
Well,
Put all your snow for the winter.
depends on, and that's a discussion we're gonna have with UDOT. My approach, and this is just how I think it would work, is actually tipping the road to the center and allowing the snow to be pushed into the median in the middle. And that way it would drain and act as a stormwater capture system in the center of the road, which
And is the state gonna pay to do that?
we would look, that's a discussion we need to have with them. I know right now Main Street isn't on UDOT's to be upgraded, improved list. I honestly don't even know what, they have different categories for UDOT. Every region has different actually UDOT as a whole takes all 4 regions' improvement projects and categorizes them in priorities, and I don't know where we fall on that list.
Great idea,
Because-
but I look at it from snow
Because,
plowing.
yeah.
Them trucks aren't gonna go in and then out.
No, I would look at, and we talked about this with the mayor, the state would just plow between the curbs, and then the city will deal with the flex space. My anticipation, because you're not really gonna go sit out and eat ice cream in December, that most of the bollards are going to be inside, and so we'll look at trying to do snow removal
Off of Main
off of Main.
with our public works guys.
But I think there's some things we can do to get extra money to do that through some special economic districts and things like that that can help pay for that, so.
I would think
there's things
too,
we can do.
because this portion, I believe, falls into the RDA. You could look at using some of the RDA funding to help cover the costs of snow removal through those times.
This is this may be several,
Issues with water draining to the curb, the ice, and the people, pedestrians cannot get across, and there's nowhere to drain. And we got 2 problems where we would solve this one.
Yeah, the other thing coming down to pedestrian safety as well is twofold. With the curbs being moved away from the sidewalk, you wouldn't have as much icing there along the curb. You'd have that flex space and then still have hopefully good pedestrian access. The other part too with the raised islands is creating a good buffer for pedestrians to feel safe and not feel right next to traffic. So this was our preferred concept. Like I said, everything that happens between the curb has to get UDOT approval. And right now our focus to help with businesses and to help with pedestrian and wayfinding and signage is to really focus on between the curb and the building. And so I've been working on trying to get a meeting with UDOT, but we will focus this cross section, this phase 1 cross section in the middle right is what we're hoping we can start working towards as a city. Because the UDOT communicated to us that anything behind the curb is open for the city to improve without their oversight.
So which one are you saying?
This one here. So some of us would like to see this landscape island go in the middle just to help with traffic calming and greenery. But because that is under UDOT's jurisdiction, this phase 1 shows where we would like to, the improvements the city can focus on including, because it falls behind the curb.
Jeff, could you speak to what traffic calming is and what?
Yeah, so it's road spike. No, just kidding. It's not road spikes. Traffic calming is designing roadways so that people drive on them the way they feel they should. So I don't know if anyone's driven on Main Street in Salt Lake through City Creek and through by the Gallatin Center. It's 25, and it feels like it should be about 10 because you've got parallel parking, your drive aisle, and then the track system. It's very claustrophobic. You don't feel like driving 25 like it's posted. In comparison, State Street, that's only a block over, is only 35, but because it's got 6 lanes, you can pull 40, 45 down there just to keep up with what everyone else is doing. And so traffic calming is putting in road features that help drivers feel like the speed limit, like they should go the speed limit. Our hope through this area is to get it reduced to 25, which will help pedestrians feel safe, but it also will help people driving through town make a better mental map of Main Street. You know, we've had businesses come and go that say, my sign was in the window. No one's reading windows. I'm not reading windows as I'm driving by on Main Street. No one has, not as small as our blocks are. You just don't have the reaction time to be reading perpendicular to the way you're driving. And so with this way, because it's calmer, because people want to drive slower, our focus would be on creating a space on Main Street where the cars slow down so the pedestrians feel safe and the people driving understand what's on Main Street.
So I got, just for me, so you go down, you got the curb, and then you got like a park strip that's got the one side, the sidewalk side has the high thing that you can sit on.
Yeah, so
we're can't make them any bigger, so we still got the same thing, but the trees and all that'll be in that.
That's right.
yeah.
In the planters.
So right now, one issue we have is we've got a 10 or 11 foot sidewalk, but 5 or 6 feet of that is taken up by trees. And so by moving that out into the raised planters, one, you create a better space for trees to live because they're being able to absorb water. You'll have the irrigation system in there. And two, it actually opens up the entire sidewalk for accessibility.
So every so often so these guys, people can park and go
Yeah.
get
So you'll
into
see
their
here,
business.
We've got spots, so like next to this, like this is the Key Bank, for example. You've got the drive aisle that's now got the raised planters here. And then you've got parallel parking here where they can. But really, these planters are just going at spots where people really shouldn't be parking in the first place. One peeve I have, just from my background, is the right turn here at Domino's is not a right turn. It's the shoulder, but everyone going eastbound on Main Street turns right there and makes it their own lane. So it's a pet peeve of mine just because it's not an actual lane, but everyone's like, hey, look, I can take a right.
And,
So we'd end up being able to put planters and landscape in there.
We still gotta get a 47-foot ladder truck around them corners, and that makes a
They'll swing
difference.
it. The curves out there right now that Sam illustrated, they're the same size they are now.
So the corners and all that are the same?
And so really, that road's going to behave the way it does now. All we're doing is improving the shoulders for pedestrian and public safety and greenery.
Trees are in the concept plan, but the trees may and may not, they may and may not be there. It's just that's what Sam put in
Yeah.
right now. There could be other plantings that,
To me, the first West Tremont Street and all them doing that green right there is good for not the turn, but if we're after parking, there's a dozen parking spots gone right there.
I'd argue you shouldn't be parking where those green spaces are. I mean, you're right next to driveway entrances. I mean, it's pushing accessibility, visibility.
They also don't help. You either have a green space there, or you have cars there, and that also doesn't help with the 47-foot ladder truck either.
Right. But we're still, all we hear about is parking.
And I think the
And
thing,
you're taking parking.
my key with all of
Them
this,
things would hinder the ladder truck, I would think.
he said he can make it.
That's the way.
No, I would just say we are very cautious about any road narrowing, right? Like, we like to, and we're extremely concerned with islands. They inhibit us a great deal. Because then when cars do back up, we can't get around them. But we're all in favor of things that are good for the city, right? Things that are good for the city, that are good for the businesses, are equally good for the fire department. But we do worry about corners, access, limited drive space, because that ambulance has to get up and down that road every day. And the engine's not every day, but,
The Cycall 500 is still gonna come through there no matter how you do it.
yeah. But we're in favor of things that are good for the city, as long as it doesn't impede traffic flow.
And as we get into this too, and I've done so many of these, you can do, engineering firms commonly do turn analyses where they take and digitally make sure that these intersections are good. I mean, this is a concept level plan. And we aren't gonna put anything out there that hinders fire safety or, we're not gonna throw the roadway down enough that it's not accessible. I mean, we've still got box trucks, fire trucks, semis that have to get in and bring deliveries to the commercial spaces. So as we move forward, there will be an analysis done to make sure all of these intersections work properly. And because this is a UDOT road, there will be more than one group analyzing it.
And I just wanted to mention as well, that this fits into a process, this concept stage, where it goes from concept design, or concept to the actual design, where they will go ahead and do those analyses. And then only after it's designed and passes all the legal requirements and things, then it goes out to bid. So we need to understand that we are here in the concept phase. You are here, finish line's over here. So what we are asking is not necessarily to say, go ahead, construct this, because also there are other implications to consider. How much is this gonna cost, right? We don't know until we can approve a concept, and then we can start seeing how practical it is, and then we can get bids on it, and that allows us to start doing that more real work. So that's kind of where we're at. Does that make sense?
So
No question.
help me understand that from the curb now in towards the road is all UDOT.
Yeah, so the
Correct.
curbs kind of act as property, like fence lines.
Okay, so your areas here where you have your parking and your bump outs and that's all UDOT anyway.
It is right now.
Correct.
So if we can get them to agree to move the fence, it'll add extra ownership to the city.
Okay, so I think the main thing that we're trying to figure out right now is do we believe in, this concept, but most importantly, the sidewalk part of it, with all of everything we want to do on the
Sort of phase
sidewalks,
one.
because that's kind of phase one, right?
Phase one.
And I agree, we need to get a bid and all that, and all these may change as we talk to UDOT and
Yeah.
may change dramatically, but we can still do things on the sidewalk.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I think the things you guys have put out on the sidewalk are some really good ideas.
The other part too, being able to go through and redo this is most buildings along Main Street are at different finished floor elevations. And so by being able to go through and try to attack all of this now, is you'll be able to make so that those sidewalks hopefully are all very ADA accessible. And you'll deal with those grade differences in the asphalt. Because you can play with asphalt quite a bit and it doesn't have an issue. But one thing that hinders our sidewalks now, and Kix is an example where they've got one chunk that is a ramp that comes out, and the ramp actually goes into the walkway of the sidewalk. And so by being able to go through and redo this, we're gonna put a priority that the sidewalk is very accessible and meets ADA codes. And we'll figure out how through the landscape planners and the roadway to meet up the grade difference. And that's why I like having the center median is those can, be tipped one way or the other. And no one's gonna notice if, for example, the north side is 6 inches lower than the south side. No one is gonna really notice that, but it's gonna make the Main Street more pedestrian friendly for all forms of traffic.
So does your concept consider these two blocks or
We just put these two blocks together, but we're hoping, this is gonna be part of a much larger project that spans all the way from 84 to the crossroads. But right now, we were just trying to focus and keep the steering committee on this area. But I think
East to
this,
East to
I
Central
think
West.
this concept was probably gonna go from 200 west to 200 east.
Which I'll talk a little bit more about here in just a second.
Thanks.
We've got about 10 minutes, so I'll turn the time back to you.
All right.
Great work.
On behalf of the committee, I'll just say, stop it. We know.
We've got access to your survey, right?
Yeah, I can send you the link.
Yeah, and all of this can be accessible to you guys.
Driving to Seattle tonight.
Oh, have fun. Be
Tonight.
careful.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's go ahead to the next slide. See if I can do it. Oh. There we go. Okay. At the end of everything, we want to ask, what's the therefore what? Right? What do we do? If Tremont City Council approves this concept, the city can then finish the design. So are we talking, what types of trees are we talking? What are the dimensions? Exactly, how do those corners need to work? What will work for the fire department? Let's get all these design things sort of pinned down. What kinds of street lights, which is something we barely grazed over with the survey. We want to choose street lights that will reduce light pollution, but increase illumination on Main Street. So all of those sort of things go into the final, or to finishing the design. So all of that can kind of start if we agree on this basic concept. We can start work with UDOT on approval. We expect, I don't. These guys expect to go to UDOT and for them to say no and have some back and forth.
Actually, UDOT is, the meetings we've had with them, we've sort of brushed over this a little bit. And what they're kind of saying is that these UDOT roads that go through these communities like us, they're much more open to, ideas and things that sort of help enhance the economic viability of the downtown areas and stuff like that. So their policies or their ideas are sort of changing, and I think they're much more willing to listen to us now.
Excellent. And I think that is very important to remember as well as we kind of wrap up. And I appreciate our chief saying that, you know, whatever's best for, it has to be best for both parties, right? But we're trying to increase our vitality on Main Street. Business is absolutely essential to that, as well as to the economic success of Tremont City, right? We know sales tax revenue can follow. That is what we're trying to do, essentially, is put in $1 and get 10 out, right? We want to make these improvements that make sense, that will end up at a tangible dollar amount, right? We want to see, you know, that tax revenue come in higher year over year. It actually already is. Sales tax revenue is increasing year over year in Tremont, and we want to see that curve go up. And the perception based off of these renovations will help that for sure. So if we finish the design, if we start work with UDOT, we can probably get it out to bid by February, is what Bill and Jeff have said. We can start putting funding mechanisms in place, right? It is the opinion of the Main Street Steering Committee, from what we've been advised, that the funding mechanisms are there to do this. Whether that is RDA money that is already there, whether that is other funding mechanisms, private and public, that we can take advantage of to get these things done. Then if all goes well, we could start getting these things done, you know, by the next construction season. Putting an end to almost 40 years of hemming and hawing over what exactly we're going to do on Main Street. And I think the public would surely appreciate that. The business owners would surely appreciate that. Every conversation that I've had with them walking up and down Main Street, and that Lyle has actually had with them as well, and talking about trees and things like that, they're among the most supportive. 35 of them took this survey. So if you think about how many businesses there are on Main Street, you know, that's a pretty good percentage of them. So, like Jeff said, this is a concept really for all of Main Street. Bill and Jeff have talked to us about a form-based code that could sort of codify how we want all of Main Street, or how all of Main Street should look, rather. Sort of guidelines or style guide for what we want Tremont's businesses to represent. It would set a precedent for beauty and functionality on Main Street, and help us introduce a wave of new entrepreneurial spirit in Tremont. And if you haven't met some of the newer business owners and some of the tenured business owners in town that have that entrepreneurial spirit, you definitely should. A couple that come to mind are Clay Summers of Hanging Arrow Barber Company, and Julie Barnes of the Sweet Score. They're on fire, and we should create a space for them to flourish. They'll pay the city back in dividends. So that is the work that we've done, gentlemen. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate the opportunity. I think we all appreciate the opportunity to sort of help organize. Hopefully you find this helpful, and hopefully we can approve this as a concept for Main Street so we can get going.
So if I can ask a question?
Yep.
What does it mean to accept the concept? I mean,
Well, I think we're giving them a thumbs up, is what we're trying to do.
I understand that, but
Yeah.
if you look at the previous slide, we're going right to construction. Well, I'm
me-
not comfortable with it going right to construction
add
without us having more input into
So
it.
Let me add some clarity.
Okay, thanks.
So there was a bit of a miscommunication, and I think it was probably me talking too much, which wouldn't be a surprise to anyone. The construction drawings for Midland should be done and ready for bid by February. And so that's the construction we're talking about, is that. Because UDOT's getting involved in the month, my hope is that through next year, we're gonna vet out this concept with them and get their approval, but I don't think we're gonna get to engineering drawings till summer-ish time with UDOT for Main Street.
Lot of
But
detail.
Midlands construction is
Got water lines down there, we got sewer lines.
yeah. Midland Square's drawings are being done by Chris and Sam right now and should be ready to be approved in December and then out to bid by February at the latest.
There's a lot of work. He hasn't even really, more than just thinking about it. Chris is just, he hasn't really even started with any of the details yet, so.
Okay,
So,
so that
all-
throws a kink in this, but
All we're asking from the council tonight is just a thumbs up, so that when we go to the conversation with UDOT, we can say not only is the steering committee approved of this, but the council has looked at it. And it gives me and the steering committee a little bit more weight going to UDOT to say, this is an approach that not only has been looked at by a community committee, but then also the city council.
okay, but you just brought Midland in, and we haven't even talked about that. So what does that have to do with the concept?
Could we go to the survey?
We just have been discussing it because that was one part of the steering committee, was going through and giving that last approval. And so they liked the, let's see here. They approved the drawings, they approved the schematic design. And then Chris and Sam have been working on actual engineering drawings for Midland Square. So it just kind of fell under the umbrella of the steering committee. And so that was kind of the low hanging fruit, is getting those construction drawings done and out to bid this winter so we can work on it in.
Okay, let me be very forward in my question. Does us approving this concept include Midland Square?
No, it's just the roadway.
So an approval to go ahead and start talking to UDOT with your blessing.
Those that were unsupportive, did we get why?
Yeah, so there's
Clarified at all?
there are comment sections that bear that out, that you can see. I mean, we could get out the popcorn and start reading them.
No, right.
But you can see they had an opportunity to sort of flesh that out, some of them extensively. My favorite comment in all of that was more food, more happy. That's all they said. It was great. But yeah, if you guys do want to know what that 7 to 8%, what their concerns were, mostly they were comments sort of to the tune of, that they felt like this was not the best use of taxpayer dollars. No real alternatives usually were mentioned.
Okay.
But please do, if the council does need time to sort of review this before giving the city the go-ahead, that's definitely an
I would
option.
think the concept would still change Midland Square. Because you already changed the front of Midland Square and the First West roads and all that, so that would change it.
My thought too, it was, wouldn't it?
Well, the sidewalk, right?
Just the sidewalk or
Yeah.
Well, the tree
pump
replacement,
outs and all that gonna be in there too, or?
No. No, just exactly how you.
I mean, there was, we looked at having the on-street parking in front of Midland as well. And I think the alleyway on the west, or on the east side, as well as the crosswalk, had some landscape islands. But we just went ahead with the concept. I mean, for the most part, this concept plan is the same one we talked to you guys about in one of the months. I can't remember which, I don't know. But the concept for Midland hasn't changed much since we showed it to you guys. The steering committee got, with the veterans' feedback, kind of relocated, I think the American flag. Can you guys help me? The American flag got moved.
We've never really been asked anything about
Okay. The Midland?
Midland.
No.
It's been talked about by some people. It's never really been discussed and fully
we'd give some suggestions, none of those
So-
appeared on this, nothing.
So if I can just throw out, I think we're giving you the approval to move forward with the concept of the streetscape, right? That's what we're looking at, and then we'll sit down later and discuss all these other issues with Midland Square and with facade grants and all that. Well, yeah, facade grants and all that.
Where does the facade grants?
Let's go for another minute, and then we're going to have this part of the meeting come to it.
Okay. Do you guys want me to speak to facade grants for a second?
How about if we go to our meeting first, man?
Yeah, we can do it during the meeting.
We can do it during the meeting.
Yeah.
Bo had a question for you, though.
It was the facade grants.
Yes,
Oh, it was
yeah.
Okay, all right.
Would you-
Where they fall in line with.
Yeah, so there, something has been clarified for me tonight, and that's that I was under the impression that we were going to get things out to bid for the streetscape, beginning of next year. So this is making a little more sense for me. But here's, the facade grants can work a couple of different ways. Lower no-interest loans from the city is what they can be. They can be, we can get funding from private investors. So if we think about people that are putting new development out west, in exchange for certain developments, the city can bond against those developments and receive funding through a CDA for that kind of a thing. Now, there are business owners that I've talked to that are of the opinion that we should do something like that and then do the whole thing all at once. What sort of the scope of what we're trying to do tonight is understand whether the council approves enough of this concept for us to go ahead and start getting some real numbers together. The next topic of discussion is in what sequence do all these things fall that make the most sense. Obviously, from a financial standpoint, it would make most sense to gather all of the funding all at once and do it all at once, right? So facade grants at the same time that we're doing all of the street renovations, so that if we need to run, other amenities and things to buildings, that we can do that all at once, sort of. Those funding mechanisms and things are sort of the linchpin on which the timing is decided. But we need to get some real numbers together first. Does that make sense? I don't. Did that answer your question, Bo?
Yes, once you, the concept's great, you can do it, but doesn't it switches to Public Works, and the city takes it over as, you guys won't be getting bids and
No.
all that. And really, it's funding.
Boils down to money.
Yeah. I gotta go too.
All right. Let's,
And that's not good, but it seems like some.
I wanted to thank Jeff and Jared and Ron for the presentations that they've shared with us this evening. Thank you to the steering committee for coming and supporting them in their presentation, and we appreciate all of the work and everything that you've done to get us to this point. And it's been a long slog, and sometimes it's been every week that we've met to try to get to this point. So we appreciate the time and effort that everybody has put into this, and I think they've come up with a very good plan for us to move forward. So thank you. Thank you so much. We'll take about a 5-minute break. I know we're running just a little behind our time, but we'll take about a 5-minute break and start up with our regular policy meeting in just a few minutes.
Catch you up to the money.
So right now they're working on getting the engineering. And so, because of all the same and other stuff, so they're working on the actual package together. I assume that's why they're.
We'll start with that one.
That's separate. No, I'm talking, that's separate. The hard part is, it's right, is because Main Street is too dark.
Man, I didn't mean to walk out on you, but it was fine. Yeah, it was. And we didn't go nowhere.
That's my wife got your cookies.
Oh, did she? I was really kidding, but hey, I'm all about cookies.
I know.
You know, you ate my heart, sure, sure.
Listen to, and it's funny that everyone likes parking. Parallel parking and these people show parking.
Why don't we, let's go, we're moving a little late, so let's go ahead and let's go around. Yes, turn The only thing to do is just bring the coverage. The audience out there, so that's what you wanted to have. Just love this, but if you know, so now it's so it's all pretty like that. Yeah.
You get that.
Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order, please. We'd like to welcome everybody out this evening to our City Council policy meeting. Got an echo now. I'll push it away from you. Looking from above. Thank you for coming this evening, and we appreciate it very much. Till we get the microphone working, I'll just try to talk a little bit louder. Our Councilman Lewis, and Vice Councilman Mr. Gardner.
I don't know if I can say a prayer for that. Our dear kind, beloved Heavenly Father, we're grateful to be here. We're grateful to be able to come together and unify our vision and be able to be in the community that we enjoy. We're so grateful for the blessings of freedom, for the opportunity to be a good community here. We pray for thy guidance and thy direction, and ask for these things in the sacred name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Can we shut
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's,
It's our pleasure to a few.
Councilmember Holt tendered his resignation to the city council. He had some other family issues and business that he needed to attend to, and so that created the opportunity for us to open that council member seat back up. And we needed somebody to finish the Councilmember Holt's term of office. And so with that, we went through some interviews and listened to some great people that very talented, very passionate about our community and wanting to make it better. We appreciate every one of them for their taking time out to apply for this position. The council met and it came to the decision that we would invite Bo Lewis to serve the remaining time of Councilmember Holt's term of office, and he agreed. And so what we need to do now is we need to swear him in and make it official. So that's what we're going to do right now. Okay. What you'll do is go down and Cynthia's going to swear you in.
Do you want to stand here and raise your right hand? Just repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and that I will discharge my duties
and that I will discharge my duties
of my office with fidelity.
of my office with fidelity.
If you want to.
Mother says you better spell your name right, Bo.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Welcome.
My wife brought your cookies, Wes. Everybody get a
Your Honor.
cookie.
We didn't tell you that's part of the assignment. That's your job now.
Every time.
No,
Just this time.
just this
Sorry,
time. All right. Well, with that, let's just go around the table right now. And so those of you that have maybe not as familiar, we have our assistant city manager, Lindsay Nessen, and then, of course, Bo Lewis and Blair Westergaard, Lyle Vance, myself, Brett Rohde, and Wes Eastep, and then our recorder, Cynthia Nelson. And so we appreciate the time and everything, time that goes into getting these meetings ready to go and everything, and appreciate everybody's service. Thank you. With that, we'll go down the agenda, and council, every time we have, you've had a chance to go through the agenda. Are there any conflicts of interest with any of you? Okay. Approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion, we approve the agenda with one change, that we move item E up to the beginning as item A.
Moving item 8E.
Yeah, discussion of Main Street concept plan to the beginning.
Yeah, I'll
rather than
second
the
it.
end.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Moved by Lyle Vance, seconded by Brett. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that's right.
An aye guy.
All right. Approval of the minutes for October 29th, 2024.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes for October 29th.
I'll second it.
Motion by Blair and seconded by Wes. All in favor?
Yes.
There we go. Public comments. This is your opportunity to address the city council regarding your concerns or ideas. We limit that time to 3 minutes. If you feel like you've got to have some more time with us, maybe you can meet with us separately to discuss your concern, but the time is now yours. Okay, well, we're quiet tonight. New council business. Now, we're moving up to before A.
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, you wanted to do that? Okay. Discussion of Main Street concept plan and approval for Main Street Steering Committee to move forward with further planning. Council?
I'll make a motion that we approve Main Street concept plan so that more study and bids can be put out so that we can further vote for whatever we need to do down the road.
This is just kind of the step one to, okay?
Yeah, I got one comment. I'm gonna second your motion, Lyle, but I think you guys have come up with really, really good ideas. Some of them we know we're gonna have to work on. We think different, don't mean that we're disagreeing with you, but some of them ideas, I hope you don't feel bad if they don't all come through the way that you're looking at them. We're gonna do everything we can, but I know fighting with UDOT is tough. UDOT's motto is to move traffic. They don't care if it comes through your town. We all remember when Main Street was the freeway through town, the older people. And we didn't have any more parking. Every business was full, It's a new world today, except that's still a state road that is meant to move people, so. But I do love your ideas, your commitment, your everything because this has been going on for a lot of years. And you guys, you guys have got it now to where something's gonna be done and it's gonna be done as quick as it can be done, so I'll second Lyle's motion.
Yeah, and I'd like to also just thank the steering committee for all the work. Very well done. It was exciting to see what you've come through, so thank you.
There's gonna be more work too, though.
Oh, yeah.
That committee's not over.
No, this isn't the end. Any other comments, council?
Well, just as the new guy, I'm impressed at what's been done. I didn't expect something that elaborate to come out, so good job. Yeah, it's great.
All right. This is just a simple up and down vote. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Great job, guys and gals. We appreciate you very much. All right. Discussion and possible action on adopting the Tremont City Council annual meeting schedule for the year of 2025. Everybody had a chance. This is just boilerplate. Seems like it's the same thing every year. Is there any questions or comments about any of this?
Make a motion that we adopt the Tremont City Council annual meeting schedule for 2020.
Motion by Lyle Vance.
Second.
Seconded by Bo? Or who, Blair?
Yeah.
Both of us.
Both of you, both Blair and Bo. All in favor?
Yes.
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 Thank you. Okay, let's see here. Discussion and possible action on adopting resolution number 24-62, approving of professional services agreement with Gold Cross Services Incorporated to provide ambulance billing services for Tremont City. I've asked Chief to come up here and Curtis to explain what all of this means, so we understand it?
I like the look on Shari's smiling face in the back. If everybody needs to see Shari smile, turn around.
Curtis is the brains behind the idea. I'm just the pretty face.
Not very.
That's all right. I asked for that. Just a quick introduction. So after consulting with Shari, when she had indicated she doesn't plan to work forever, as much as we would like her to, we knew that we needed to have a long-term strategy for ambulance billing. Probably the sooner that we got that put together, the better, so that we had more overlap, so that we wouldn't just have Shari at some point retire and then we'd be scrambling to create this plan. So we went out for an RFP, a request for proposal, for ambulance billing companies. We had 4, I thought, very good responses from very good, credible organizations who specialize in ambulance billing. We went through those ambulance billing proposals in great detail. I know Curtis went through them in detail, so did Shari, so did I. And then I believe from an operational perspective, we would be successful at working with any of those companies. I called fire chiefs who work with all of those companies, and I got very good responses from all of them. Everybody that was working with one of these companies fully expected to stay with that company. And so that felt like no matter what direction we went, we were going to be in a winning situation. However, I leaned heavily on Shari and Curtis for more the finance expertise of that conversation. We considered things like how the billing was performed by each of these companies, how credit card purchases were handled, how health savings account purchases were handled, how the collections were handled for ambulance billing once they didn't pay their bill, how those collections were dealt with, how ambulance write-offs or medical write-offs were handled, how money was handled, who held the money in what accounts and for how long before the money came over to the city. We looked at the billing rates of each company, what they intended to charge us for those services, the history of company, the size of the departments that they served, and then the references from their customers they work with. So that was kind of a list of some of the things we went through. And then at the end of all of that discussion, and I think a pretty good analysis, we've come to a place where we would recommend that Gold Cross Ambulance Billing Services be awarded the contract to work with Tremont City, Tremont Fire Department. We certainly stand for any questions, and the finance questions go to Curtis.
I have a question.
Yes.
The write-offs, naturally, how do they do that? I mean, is there a percent, how do they measure that, you know?
That might be a
You're looking
Write off
at
Curtis question.
a 30% or is there some kind of contractual amount that,
No, there
How
won't
does
be.
that work?
There won't be anything contractual.
Okay.
To a certain extent, it's going to work very similar to like what we're currently doing.
Uh-huh.
Gold Cross includes a collection side on theirs. Not all of these agencies do a full collection service. Gold Cross does have a full collection service. And they have they'll have a standard practice of how they go through the collection. And at a certain point, the account will be deemed uncollectible. And I should say, there's actually 2 portions to this. The first portion is upfront when you do the billing. There'll be a portion that insurance will require you to write off. So we keep track of insurance write-offs. Huge portion of that is Medicare, Medicaid. There's just contractually, because we accept those, there's a write-off that we have to take there. Then there's the uncollectible, once it goes to the person for actual payment. And they'll go through and evaluate what point that account's deemed where it can't be collected and sent to a separate collection agency, and written off of our books. And so we looked at what history was for these areas, but Gold Cross had a very solid collection agency, and so there's not necessarily a percentage that we expect. We're going to be monitoring what their collection rate is, but there isn't a guaranteed rate. Nobody will do that.
so Chief and I will no longer need to approve anything, correct? Okay.
Yeah, we will, and in the very end, we'll sit down and negotiate with them exactly what our expectations are. And if we intend to be involved, we'll communicate that with them. What they will recommend to us is that they're doing ambulance billing for 26-something fire departments across Utah. That they have a formula, and they will recommend that we follow that formula, and I would propose that is following the kind of the industry best practice.
But the actual write-offs will still come to the city for actual write-off.
So Curtis, they have their own collection agency within this company?
Yes, a side of what they're offering is a collection.
So it doesn't get transferred to another entity, they do their own thing. Well, so what's their incentive to collect then? I mean, you send it to another entity and they're gonna get a portion of those bad debts. These guys, if they're not incented to earn anything, they'll just let it go.
Don't they get a 5% fee?
5% for what they.
Yeah.
Oh, do they get 5?
They'll collect 5% of everything, of all the collections they do on our behalf, whether it's on first invoicing or second invoicing or that third stern invoicing.
I think the incentive's built in.
They get 5% of everything they collect.
Yeah.
They don't collect anything.
If they turn it over, they
On
lose,
everything.
they lose 100% of the revenue. So if there's $500 remaining in the balance and they decide they can't collect it and they turn it out to an outside party, then they get nothing. So they're very incentivized to get all of the collections they possibly can.
Okay.
Can you talk a little bit about how they're able to specialize?
Yeah, one of the things that I thought was interesting, I thought, we're in a good place now and we're doing really well, but when I talked to a couple of other agencies that switched to working for Gold Cross, they felt like their revenue increased significantly. And the reason they felt like that their revenue increased significantly, and when I spoke to Gold Cross, of course, this is their sales pitch, but I believe what they're saying, is that because of their size, they're able to have people specialize. So they'll have a billing individual, a person that sits at the desk and gets the invoices out, and they're assigned to only do Blue Cross Blue Shield building. And they get really good at knowing if I say this word and this word and this word, Blue Cross will pay the most. And they'll have a couple of people, because it's big, that do just say Select Health or Select Med. And they have a couple of people that only do billing to Medicare, Medicaid, right? Which are really hard to collect. And they get because they can have individuals who just specialize, they can get really good at collecting all the allowables from those individual insurance companies or providers. Where what we task Shari to do is to be perfect at everything, right? And that's just an unattainable. And they feel like because of the way they build their system, they're able to kind of squeeze out additional money from each of those insurance providers due to that specialization.
So you think that 5% or the extra that they will make up for what the 5% we'll lose on this contract?
Yeah, when I talked to South Ogden Fire Chief, when I talked to Logan City's Fire Chief, both friends of mine, I said, how did it go for you when you switched from your previous provider to Gold Cross? And both of them indicated that their collection rates went up by more than 6% because of that really specialized billing process. And if they're billing us 5% and the collection rates, if we see a similar return to what others, then it essentially pay for itself.
Good to hear. Any other questions for Chief?
No, thanks for all your work on it.
Thank you,
Yeah, no kidding.
Curtis and Chief, for all your time and effort.
Thank you.
Certainly relied heavily on Shari and Curtis to look at it through a financial lens. From an operational lens, I think we'll be successful as well.
So we're going to keep this in place until Shari retires, right?
No.
Yeah, and that's actually an important thing for us to bring up. It is our intent to bring them on board as quickly as we can with the purpose of creating as much overlap between Shari's billing and the new company to help us slow walk, that process, so we don't lose anything. I was really anxious about once Shari does intend to retire, being stuck figuring it out. And this will allow us to have a very comfortable process, I think, safe for the city.
Thank you. Thanks, Shari. Thanks for everything you do.
Well, I'll make a motion that we adopt. Is this a resolution?
It is a resolution.
26, which one?
2462.
I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution number 2462 as outlined in the agenda.
Okay,
I'll
motion
second
by-
it.
Motion by Brett and seconded by Lyle Vance. Let's see, Wes?
West Side, yes.
Brett, yes.
Lyle Vance, yes.
Larry, yes.
Bo, yes.
Thanks, everybody. Motion passes. Ayes and yeses. Okay, discussion and possible action on adopting resolution number 24-63, appointing Megan Moyer to serve on the Tremont City Library Board and reaffirming and appointing existing library board members. Maybe along with this, I've talked to, when Jeff was on the council, he was over the library board. I talked to Bo, and he's willing to continue to serve on the library board as our city council representative.
Unless he wants a planning commission.
I already got him.
Okay.
I will make the motion that we adopt resolution 24-63.
Motion by Wes. Do I have a second? Seconded by Blair. Any other comments or questions? Brett?
Brett, yes.
Lyle Vance, yes.
Larry, yes.
Bo, yes.
West, yes.
Motion passes. Thanks.
That's what screws me up. See, I rhyme, but.
Yes. All right. Thank you. Motion passes. Discussion and possible action on adopting ordinance number 24-13, amending the Tremont City Land Use Code, chapters 1.03, definitions 1.04, Land Use Appeal Authority, chapter 1.07, residential zone districts, chapter 1.08, commercial industrial zones, chapter 1.19, supplementary regulations and chapter 1.33, planned unit development.
If I may say something here, the planning commission has gone through this thing for weeks and weeks, and they have really debated, and they've gone through this very well. So just so you know that it's been well reviewed.
Is most of it just making the language all the same?
Oh, no. So,
Let me ask a question too. I'm glad you mentioned that, Brett. I was wondering why we're revamping all the rules, and so why are we doing that?
do you want to go chapter by chapter, or do you just want to?
No, I mean, what brought this on? Why are we making all these changes?
Well, the definitions included changes that were brought up by the sign changes and the landscaping ordinance, and part of the livestock change. The land use appeal was to change the structure of the planning commission to have alternates to help us be able to make sure we have full quorums at the meetings. The residential zones was to change how accessory dwelling units are permitted, which that chapter was tabled by the planning commission and will be coming probably in January to you guys. The other big part of the residential was changing how the livestock is kept within the city as we continue to grow out in annexed parts of the county. Greg and I had many discussions along with the planning commission about making the livestock ordinance be a little bit more on the responsibility of the property owner, unless there are guidelines that Utah State provided for pasturing animals.
So we've looked at all these things and like you know the increase in size and an acreage for animals. I mean, how many people is that going to affect? Anybody? Or I mean, this is when everything comes screaming at you when you make rule changes, and then we're not realizing how many people it's affecting.
Yeah, so the way that our old livestock code was done was just based on animals per acre, and I felt those numbers were quite arbitrary. I couldn't find any document that supported how those numbers were established. And so talking with Greg, and by finding the information that USU provided, we were able to show how much just an open pasture, if you're not feeding them any other kind of baled material, could generally sustain based off of the soil type and the aeration practice. And so that's how we established the numbers of just pasturing. And then we decided that if you are feeding them baled material and keeping them in a corral of some kind, it's on the property owner to just see how many they can keep. I grew up around feedlots that had thousands of dairies, and you couldn't smell them as bad as the guy that had 50 head of cows and just decided to clean his corrals once a year. So we left it down to the property owner to maintain animals as he saw fit until it creates any kind of environmental or public hazard. At which point then Greg will get involved and we'll be able to do it on a case-by-case basis.
I can see Horspool back there just shaking his head in total agreement, so.
Yeah, because we had how many discussions?
Now, there was that discussion at one point about letting them do sheep and
The,
goats?
well, you're talking about the fair,
Right.
and, go ahead, Jeff.
Are we adding that, is that added in, or
We will be adding that in. So we wanted, I have never done 4-H. I haven't been involved in that program ever in my life.
Really?
When you grow up on 700 acres, you don't really need a program to go figure out how to farm. So oddly enough, I didn't go search out more farm work.
That really hurt, yeah.
It is what it is. So
Even chickens. I mean, before I got put on the council, there was like a year period where there was so much controversy on how many chickens you can have in Tremont.
I can have more chickens.
no, so the chickens are still part of
Chicken escapades.
Don't go there, Brett.
So, the planning commission did recommend that we add a section in about being able to keep 4-H animals on smaller lots. But we wanted to vet out how the procedural process would be for, getting the registration certificate from the county to show what animals they're raising, and then we wanted to vet that out a little bit more. We just didn't put it into this section yet, so it's on my to-write list. Let's see what else. So we've got the commercial and industrial zone was to relocate our drive-through and some of our parking requirements in taking that out of chapter 1.19 and putting that into the commercial one so that that's communicated. I feel like it communicates it more clearly for some of our commercial group. The other part with 1.19 was taking the chickens out and putting them in the residential one, just to help communicate that with the other livestock requirements. And then we took out we felt like it was redundant given the update to the landscape ordinance that one of the paragraphs we had one paragraph that stated to look at the landscape ordinance for landscaping, and the next paragraph was about street trees. But that is now part of the landscaping and buffering requirements. So we recommended taking that paragraph out to avoid duplicity. The biggest chunk is 1.33, which is the planned unit development, which we've worked on for about 4 months now. And the point of this is to replace our overlay zones with a more standardized practice. And so pairing this with development agreements, I believe it's going to create a more standard and more consistent, but yet still quite creative residential approach to permit density and urbanization and growth.
I like it because it's a standardized development agreement, if you will. So when a developer comes in, they can take this and go. And it's all established for it instead of having specific development agreement for everyone that comes in. And
Conditional uses on everything.
Yeah. And so this is a good starting point to letting them get their development underway. I was quite excited to see this be put into play.
Yeah, it also communicates say for example, you're allowed 3 units per acre on a development. This sets forth the guidelines of what you have to add into your development to go above that, and at what rate that is based on a point system. Which is here, so we've allowed for open space, if you do any kind of extra open space, which we define later, any kind of recreational amenities, if you have enclosed parking within your multifamily developments, so for your townhomes and apartments, you can get some extra. Or if you'd like to just, write the city a check for a significant amount of money, we'll also give you extra density, just. So,
Is that legal?
it is in a development agreement.
Okay, just wondering.
The PUDs and stuff like this is where the state kind of allows cities to have a little bit more control over standards and because you're permitting extra density for the development.
All right.
So it's a short recommendation, but I'm happy to go through any other questions.
Questions for Jeff?
I'll make a motion
Can I,
that, yeah.
before you start, thanks, Jeff and Brett and the Planning Commission for taking this much time to, go through this with a fine-tooth comb. We appreciate you guys for doing that.
I'll make a motion, we adopt ordinance number 2413.
I'll second it.
Motion by Brett and seconded by Lyle Vance. Let's see, Lyle, you're up.
Lyle Vance, yes.
Blair, yes.
Bo, yes.
Wes, yes.
Brett, yes.
Motion passes. Good job. Okay, that completes our new council business for this evening. Just a quick run through on the calendar, upcoming calendar. We have an open house coming up on the 26th. This is a Tuesday, isn't it? Yes. Tuesday, the 26th, for all employees, council members, and their spouses from 2 to 5 p.m. And so come and enjoy a nice meal and have a little something for you. Next council meeting on the 3rd of December, and there'll only be the one council meeting in December. Then our council Christmas dinner at Maddox will be on the 10th, 6 p.m.
Isn't ours on the 10th down there too? Paul? Is ours on the 10th down there too?
11.
Oh.
Okay. The planning commission's not on that.
You only get to pick one last.
Oh, I don't. It's my last one that Paul's gonna cook, so.
All right, and no council meeting on the 17th. So we have just one council meeting in December, and anyway, we'll be done for the season, for the year.
Yeah, come back and start on budget in January.
Oh, and I'm glad you said something on that. There's been some discussion and talk about having a retreat of some kind, a visioning workshop. I'd like to start that after the first of the year. Maybe we can get more in depth on that. But I'd like to, utilize the expertise you all have and help us to sort of vision the direction that we want to go as a city. Maybe we can have a couple of workshops at the first of the year to do that. I'd like to see that happen, so. Okay.
If we do that, Tuesdays just start early.
Yeah, we
start
can
at
just start,
5 or
we can
whatever
just
and
start early.
Yeah, have a
We
session
might even
or-
we may start way early, I don't know, we'll see. But depends, if you've got ideas and things that you want
After February 21st, we can have them at noon, and I don't care.
to, all right.
I can't. I gotta-
Blair would still be out.
Okay, all right. Let's see. Department head report. Let's say DRC, do we have anything, DRC comment, anything to mention there? Been kind of quiet now, kind of the off season a little bit, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. Council report, let's see, city department head reports. Paul? You got anything for us?
It's not in the written report.
Yeah, I was noticing that I
Yeah.
was looking at that. And those are some great write-ups from all the department heads. Thank you.
They are.
They were wonderful. So I think that they really summarize what's going on for the week or 2 weeks. So thanks.
Good. I'll just, let's see. Chief, do you have anything for us? This chief. This chief.
This chief. Couple quick things. I sent you a photo of the new engine in the council report. It's probably roughly about 3 weeks, we're thinking, before we get it here. Maybe a little bit longer, but we're pretty excited about that process. Still has to have stickers, labels, striping, radio, some of those things, but it'll be shipped to Utah fairly soon.
Why don't you put BR on the side of that too?
PR?
Bear River.
Oh, I'm okay with it. I love it. Yes, that's direction from council.
While it's down there, really, what the heck?
I like it. Chief Cordova and I have both talked about the challenges with communication right now. On the fire department side, we're still having some significant challenges with the changeover of radios to a new system. I think we've done everything within our power. I sent a pretty harshly worded letter to the state today indicating that they've got to get on their end fixing our paging. Our firefighters are not able to get pages through a traditional pager. We're getting our pages through text messages, which is usually our backup system. Our primary system's not working. It hasn't worked for almost 3 weeks. So we're working on some of those things. That's keeping us busy. We're starting into our time of year that we'll be recertifying most of our EMTs. Or about half of our department. That'll be a little bit of work getting all that done. But otherwise, we're doing really well. So thank you for the support.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, a couple quick updates from the police department. We assisted Brigham with a search warrant involving a drug case. It actually involved a couple businesses. I won't go into detail since it's an active investigation. We also assisted Cache County. They asked for one of our K-9s for a jail search. We've been collaborating with them. We are part of their gang task force now. Their gang unit actually came out and did a pretty good training for all of our officers. Basically, they were able to document any offenders in our area. There are a couple, and the hope is to know them, to know that we know them, and that way we can deter further gang involvement. But I would say we don't have a gang problem right now because we're on top of it. Police Department, we assisted Ogden Police Department with a search warrant in Tremont. It involved a aggravated assault case. Again, it's an open investigation. We did meet with the school board to discuss the MOU we have with the school. It's for an SRO. Basically, it's outdated and we want to adjust for inflation. School's been great, very positive. They're willing to adjust to our new pay scale, so that should help a little bit. Last thing I'd say is the SWAT team, just a quick update on that. I'm actually meeting with the sheriff this week. It's been very productive. We're making huge strides and it's really good for our city. We've had a couple activations this year. We had a ton last year. Overall, it's just one of the more positive things we've been able to accomplish. But other than that, business as usual, staying busy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
thanks.
I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
The 25 mile an hour along here, I've got a lot of complaints about that. What's driven that decision?
Yeah.
Complaints that it was too fast.
Yeah, it's
people.
it's kind of like the road issue. You know, everybody wants to fix the road, and then we fix the road, and then they're complaining that the road's not functional. So I don't know. I wish I had a perfect answer to make everybody happy. Unfortunately, I'm okay reevaluating it, but I think it came from Paul, and we both felt there was some merit to it. Slower is always going to be better, in my opinion. But yeah, I've gotten complaints as well.
Same thing on Fourth West. That's 25 now too, so.
Yeah.
And that, I think width of the road has a lot to do with it, you know. You drive down Main Street in front of the high school and down through Garden, and that's 40.
Sure.
And that feels too fast, honestly, but, I just, with as wide as this street is here, it just makes me wonder if 25 is a little too slow. I mean, I drive it every day and it feels slow, but we'll follow the law, so.
Yeah, I'd be open to reevaluating. We're not trying to be harsh on the public. We have encouraged our officers, there's going to be a time to educate where people can adapt to the change. I think change is hard for everybody. That will follow with complaints. Usually people get used to it, but if it's a major issue for the city, I'm happy to
A
reevaluate
lot
it.
more residential up and down that road now.
Yeah, and you got one cool thing about our community, we get a lot of foot traffic, and the last thing we want is someone getting ran over. I mean, we've had that in the past, it's always a horrible thing, so anything to mitigate the risk to public safety, I'm always gonna be on board for, but, we gotta balance that with the needs of the public,
Oh,
so,
and I think you putting your sign up out there helped a lot.
yeah.
And I think you've been a little bit lenient on just warnings and helping people that way, so.
Red and blue lights do work, because
Yeah, those were awesome. I saw it the other day, I thought I was backing my guy, and it was the speed trailer, so.
You were going too fast.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, good point. I think give it a little time, see if people adapt, and if it's a consistent complaint, we can always reevaluate. So, thank you, council.
Okay, thank you. Council reports. Let's see, Wes, do you have anything for us?
I have nothing except I gotta thank that steering committee again. That's amazing. I think you made our job easier by doing the legwork on it, and I hope you have our support behind it. We beat our heads against the wall up here for years, and you guys have taken that and got her done, and department heads, I know it's about Christmas time and all that. Remember to thank your guys from us, all of us, more than the $20 gift certificate they're gonna get at Christmas or whatever. From the council, we appreciate everybody in our city, and just make that known, please.
I agree. Great job on the steering committee and to all of our employees. You guys are awesome. That's all I have.
Amen to what Wes said too, Jared and Jim and Nancy and Monica and the Merrills back there and so many more, all the hours you guys have spent on it. We appreciate what you have done. That'll help get us moving in the right direction. The money's there, we just need to figure out how to prioritize now and get something done. Thank you.
I'm the same way, and my only thing is I just know how the state is. The roads get to be a problem. But even if we don't do the road and do that part, it's still a big portion. I mean, it'll look really nice.
Yeah, I already said I'm impressed, it's awesome to see. Apparently that's not normal to have a report that well polished and, on day one. I'm just grateful that you're doing what you're doing, so thank you. Yeah.
Well, I'd like to second everything that's been said so far, and thank you. All of you that served, many of you are not, weren't able to come tonight, and we thank them too, but thank you, all of you, for the time and effort, and it has been hard. It's been a lot of work to get to this point and that kind of thing. I just wanted to, give just a little brief update. I promise not very long. We've gotten, I just signed a contract with Paul and DNR, and we received $1 million grant to refurbish I don't know if you remember, council, a couple of years ago when the water line failed over there in Deweyville, and Wes certainly does. Well, we went to work and we had some help from DNR, and we were successful in receiving a $1 million grant. The money that we received actually worked out that we can get a little larger line. We're going to come in with a 14-inch PVC line that, according to Chris, will increase the volume that we can, water that we can bring into the city by almost more than twice. So from 1 million gallons a day to over 2 million gallons a day. And so we just appreciate that. The secondary water project, Service Area 4, that one, we were able to get that done with another $2 million grant. And so that pretty well covered a lot of that. And then we received another $1 million grant that's going to help us with, well, actually it's more than that. It's probably 1.2 something. It's going to help us with our ASR, and now that we've got growth and happening over here in the River's Edge area, part of their requirement is they've got to put in a pump system for secondary water. And so before those homes are livable, they've got to be able to have that pump system installed. And our agreement with the canal company is as soon as that pump system goes in, that we start on our next equalization basin, which will be in East Tremont and kind of over there by the McMurdy farm on SR 13. And so.
One thing, Mayor, remember that the houses that they've just paved now, they can be built, but it's the next
It's the next phase. Okay, it's the paved ones that they can, the
They can-
cul-de-sac that they can, they're.
That they just tied in from the other ones. Whatever's paved over there new now, they can build them.
But the new
it's
stuff-
next one.
Yeah, okay.
That they
Thank
have
you.
to have secondary.
Thank you for the clarification.
Bring it back.
And they're doing the road, that now, they're continuing.
It's done now, isn't it?
It's paved.
That part, but they're continuing with the next phase
Yeah.
right now.
That's the part I'm talking about, that they've got
Yeah.
to have that pump system in before those homes can
Right.
be livable.
Yeah.
Thanks for the clarification on that. With that, council, is there any other business that we need to discuss?
No, I just make a motion, we go into closed session.
Thank you, appreciate that. So we'll have a motion to go into closed session. Second by Lyle Vance, motion by Brett. Are we taking a little brief break?
I'm gonna go get those cookies.
I was gonna say, there's a lot of cookies up there, so.
I was headed that way too.
Before you walk out, there's cookies here.
Brett, what are there?
There are cookies here. Thank you.
You guys done such a good job.
Well, we promised not to.
Garrett? Yeah.
Yes.
Been a long time coming.
You too.